New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
And hello again, dear ones. Rev BRZ with you over here.
Rev Z right here.
Rev Cynthia James right here.
And this is New Thought Today on the New Thought Media Network. Happens every Tuesday here at 2 o'clock on the Mountain Time Zone. So grateful that you are with us. And I realized, folks, I completely forgot to change the banner for the day. So let's get that taken care of before we say hello. And we are saying hello today to a longtime friend and colleague. And I forgot to mention this beforehand, but I was reflecting on how many Saturday, Sundays the three of us spent in various classrooms over the years as Reverend Cynthia was one of the instructors when I was in ministerial school, and Z and I shared that experience. So Reverend Cynthia James is our special guest today. We're so delighted to have you here, dear one. Thanks for being with us.
Yes,
I'm thrilled to be with you.
We're going to have fun today here, folks. I'm positive of that. So be sure to chat along, chime along. Let us know you're out there. Shaybird, we see you. Good to see you, dear one. Thanks for being with us. Linda Plasters, good to see you. Anyone else along the way, just chime along. We'll say hello as we go. Okay, Reverend Cynthia, help our audience out a little bit. Tell us a little bit. What do they need to know about you and all the great work you do in the world to get our conversation started here today?
Well, I'm an ordained minister in religious science, and I have been on the path, the spiritual path, with this philosophy for, oh my gosh, over 30 years. And today I'm not in a spiritual community. I was an associate minister at Mile High for a number of years, but now I have Cynthia James Enterprises. I do coaching, leadership coaching. I train coaches to do my work in the world. And it's really about bringing consciousness to all sectors, not just the spiritual sectors, because I do speak, and I've written 5 books, and I've done 8 albums and meditation CDs. But I really want to spread the word so that people that are not necessarily in the communities, the CSL communities, get to understand what it means to be awake and aware.
Yeah, wow. And that's so perfect, because we're in a time, I believe, where the true meaning of spiritual work, which is wholeness, is being revealed. So it doesn't require necessarily you to be associated with a specific group or thing. The thing is, I believe, is to be whole, to be genuine, to be community-based, service-oriented. And that sounds like exactly what you're providing, whether it's on a spiritual platform or a business platform or an individual self-journey platform. And I think we need more of that just to, navigate the waters that we're currently in.
Yeah, because the thing that we all teach is that we're interconnected and that there's one. But until people can understand that from an experiential place, it's just concept. And so for me, I'm excited about having people be awake and aware to the fact that they're unique individuals on this planet, that they're magnificent, that they're unrepeatable, and that they get to bring their light to the planet in a way that's going to serve humanity.
Yeah. And what a great concept. I think as Robert was saying earlier, you know, we've known each other for a while. And when I just think about the atmosphere, for lack of a better word, when we first met, and the atmosphere now, and where we each have individually gone in terms of trying to be an example of what living this philosophy, this way of life is, it's extraordinary to see. You know, I wish I would have took some 1-minute videos of myself through the last, 10, 15 years or whatever, and then go back and string them together. I think I might do that now just to see where I'm at in 5 years. But that's the kind of work I think that you do, especially with some of the women's work that you do, which I think now is definitely one of the points of the divine feminine being reestablished as a grounding, as an intuitive, as a place for love. And I'd like to hear, a little bit about that work you do.
Yeah, well, women are a passion for me. I really believe that this is a time on the planet when women's voices and beings are rising. They're emerging. You see women all over the world stepping into the power. I have a podcast called Women Awakening, and I've interviewed over 180 women around the world who have at some point decided to take charge of their lives, to bring their gifts, to bring their voices, to bring light to the planet. And some of them are business people, some of them are doing it in community, some of them are doing it by supporting international means. But it's just incredible that all of these women at one point or another had a moment of awakening where they said, okay, it's my time to show up fully.
Yeah. And that's key. I think, there's this, I think, worldwide saying that goes, I can describe to you what a mango tastes like, i.e. mango meaning awakening, but you never know what it is until you taste it. And once you have that experience, then you have a real understanding of what awakening is, what being of service is. And there's no way to describe that. But once you've had that experience, once you taste that mango, I can say mang and you'll say go, because the energetic vibration is already there to make you feel what needs to be done, or feel what needs to be said, or how to celebrate. And I think that's how we begin to really change and make a change, is by opening our hearts up and doing these kinds of connections from an experiential base that goes beyond words. And then, we can get beyond some of the rhetoric, I think.
Yeah. And I think that that's what spiritual communities are called to do. I think it's to create experience, because the old model of churches and whatever is like somebody gets up and talks and then you go, oh, this is great. And then you go out and supposedly do it. But I think we're being called to create an experience for people so that they start to understand what is God to them, what is love to them, what is peace to them, what is grace to them.
Yeah.
And I love that you're speaking to this piece of there is the awakening. We awaken to that new sense. And so I'm interested, because for me, that isn't a light switch on, light switch off type of event. It's not oh, hey, guess what? I got it now. Let's go. There's always that evolution and that step process. And so I'm really curious because as close as we may be in geographic terms, we don't get to hang out as much as we used to. What's been one of the more, let's say, profound or maybe even aha type of awakenings that you've experienced in the past few years?
Well, there's been a lot, but I'm going to talk about something that was physical. I had a knee replacement in April, and I'm a very independent person. I'm married to an independent person, and so here I am, and I'm incapable of doing for myself. And all of a sudden, I had to step into the awareness that this, we talk about law of circulation and giving and receiving, but there are times when you can't give. Your only job is to receive. is to be a place where you can be vulnerable and raw and allow love to come in and care for you. I mean, I have talked about this my whole life, but that was absolutely the biggest moment to be able to see, yes, I have to surrender to support.
Yeah. Wow. That, that's powerful because our society, in more ways than one, tells us that we have to be independent. We have to be self-contained and self-reliant. And all those things are good in their proper place and time. But again, when we begin to look at life in wholeness, that is one piece of the whole. And then if you allow that idea, that way of living to creep over into places where it shouldn't be, now we really have a problem. And I think we see that every day in both ways. We see people who go too far with that, and we see people who haven't been able to make the adjustment, and they're crying out to receive.
Right. Well, and that's where I think, I remember many, many years ago, Reverend, I guess he's a Dr. Lloyd Barrett, got sick, and he was in the hospital, and and of course, everybody was surrounding, holding in prayer and all of this. But the thing that was so fascinating for me is that he was unwavering in his standing in the truth of who he was and his health and well-being. And he welcomed the gifts and the loving and the support. But at the same time, he was asking people to join him in his knowing. It was such a beautiful thing to witness.
Yeah. I just got to see Dr. Lloyd earlier this year, so I guess not just got to. I remember if it was January or February, and was down in Las Vegas for an event, and he had completely slipped my mind that he could be there. And all of a sudden, I turn and I look. I'm like, "Hey, that's Dr. Lloyd sitting down there in front." And I bring that up because he is still that.
Yes,
he is still that. And I think that's you bring up something that's kind of topical, actually. We in New Thought, we teach about eternality, and yet we still receive prayer requests that say, please pray for this person's peaceful transformation. Please pray for this. And to me, it's always felt like a little bit of, okay, I get where the request is coming from. I understand that people make those decisions. They want to move. And there's a piece that says, yes, but I want to pray for life everlasting. I want to be with you in a consciousness that says, no matter what it is that it may look like in a hospital room, in our experiences, there's something even greater than this. Yeah. And can we live in the mystery of what that greatness is, what that amazingness is?
Yeah, I think the prayer requests often are for the people asking for the request, not for the people that they want prayer for. Because I think in those moments when it becomes clear that people are leaving or whatever is happening, our attachment to people and to experiences amplifies. I wrote a newsletter lately that said that, non-attachment was not disengagement. It's like if you can be not attached, you can stand in the truth of what you know, and you still love that person, and you still want to be there for them, and you want to go through whatever is necessary. But you're not attached to the outcome and what you think is going to happen later, because you're so clear that it's eternal.
Yeah. And that reminds me of this evolutionary process I have in my mind about how we engage to this enlightened point, right? We begin with hope, right? We hope something will happen. We hope that I'll be successful. And then eventually that hope moves into a belief. I believe this is going to work. I really do believe that. And if you have enough experience, then you move into this faith. I have a faith that this will work. And ultimately, you move into what you were talking about with Dr. Lloyd. He moved into this place of knowing. So we go from hope to belief to faith to knowing. Mm-hmm. And once you and inevitably, since we live in this eternal cycle of life, once you get to the point of knowing, now you move back to a place of hope because you're in a whole new spectrum, you're in a whole new world, and you have to reorient yourself to life or the situation that you're in. And I think we have this idea that when you get to a certain point of maturation, that you don't need to do anything else. You're all encompassing and you know it all, and you can just sit on the mountain and go or whatever. And that's not the case. That's just another place of, oh my God, I don't know what to do now. I'm at the top of the mountain. How do I get down? How do I stay up here? Or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that is that people forget that we live in an evolutionary energetic field, and we are part of that field, and so therefore we are evolutionary, so we're never going to stay the same, but we get comfortable. And as much as people say, oh, I want to change, change is hard for people.
Yes, it is. And I love your work, and I mean, if I had to encapsulate your work for me and the time I've known you, I think the paramount thing is freedom. And that's freedom of choice, freedom of direction, freedom of whatever it is. But that freedom is housed or centered in this whole thing of clarity and purpose and being resilient to overcome this, or not overcome, but to live within this evolutionary process. And so I would love to hear how one might be able to apply that more effectively now, while there's so much evolutionary change happening in our environment and our societies, and often people are just staying put because of fear or whatever.
Yeah, so my last book is called Does My Voice Matter? And what I tell people when I open the book is that a voice isn't just a sound that comes from you. It is your full, authentic expression, whether that's speaking, writing, singing, dancing, designing, wearing clothes, whatever it is. Yeah. And so for me, freedom is when you can step into that authentic place where you are unapologetically you, then you get to express in ways that you might not have even thought of, because now you're open to the download of the universe that wants to move through you and play through you and dance through you and sing through you. And so for me, it's like, find your voice, find that part of you that wants to express fully and give it its way.
Yeah. That's, as you were saying that, I'm thinking about this, having this brand new bottle, nice and shiny, and it contains a lot, but I got the cap on the bottle. So I'll keep pouring the water on top of the bottle. And I'm like, how come ain't no water coming in this daggone bottle? What the heck is going on? But when I open that top on that bottle and allow it to be its fullness, then I can retain, then I can be filled, then I can pour back out if I need to. And that's what I think we need, and we have them. I don't want to say it from a need-based thing. We have people that are being live demonstrations of that, but I think we need to have more examples, and they need to be pushed forward, as you were saying. However, they are displayed. I was just speaking Sunday in service, and there's a young lady from the U.S. that will be representing the United States in the Olympics in Paris in breakdancing.
I love it.
So, right. Yeah. So when I use the example, when you think about it, breakdancing is these little bit of moments of movement or posturing that are put together in this string of activities that when you see them individually, you say, oh yeah, that's pretty cool. But when you see them together in a wholeness and a fullness and the freedom that comes from that, it's mind-blowing that, if we can take that emulation and take that idea and emulate it in our lives and everything we do, we will be breakdancing in life, which I think is just a cool thing to do.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, though, it's like you have to get to a place then where you are not concerned about what other people think.
Yeah.
Because your full expression is going to ruffle some feathers.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to invite people to be authentic in their own way. And so when you get to the place where you are so tapped into your own breakdance, when you are so tapped into your own expression that other people's opinions don't faze you,
Right.
then that's the entree to true freedom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Yes, and a journey, because I think of, as you say that, moving even through this ministry, this philosophy teaches us that, and even I look around and I watch others that in our peer group that are still want to buy into that. How do I make my thing look more enticing, or how do I get more? And we're going to start drifting into our normal second segment here, folks, as we look at the beginnings of, or the future of New Thought. Right now, it still appears to me that there's a lot of siloing going on. A lot of people that want to, rather than it's about us and it's about oneness, it's still get me mine first. And we talk about that, right? It's important for people to be in a healthy and an authentic state. And then the call has to be to expand that authenticity, to expand into other places. And that's something I see that when I look at you, Reverend Cynthia, you've done that. You've gone from the place of let me be this instrument in a church setting to more of a let me be the expression in whatever setting I'm called to. And and I'll take that as accurate in the nod of your head there. That so what I'm interested in is where do you find that you have that it isn't necessary? Well, I don't want to say it that way. Have you found that what your teaching has transitioned or changed over time through these various experiences of being a figure in a public movement such as New Thought?
Yeah, well, there's a couple things I want to say. One, the whole thing about silo is an old paradigm. It's an old paradigm in religion, mine, and get people to understand that I'm the one, I've got the message, whatever that is. But the thing is that when you look at some of the people around the planet, whether it was Gandhi or Martin Luther King or Mother Teresa or on and on and on, their intentionality was for humanity. Their intentionality was to be in high service. So for me, that's my high goal. It's like, how do I be in high service to support the awakening of humanity, to remember who we really are and why we are really here? So it doesn't matter to me if I'm in a spiritual center speaking, or whether I'm at a conference, a business conference, or whether I'm working with a leader. It's like, that's still my goal. How can I be in service to that person or to that space, to invite people to remember how magnificent we are and how we can all be in service.
It may seem off center, but I think it's on point. When I'm just thinking, I was watching a program last night, and I saw a friend of mine at the event, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. A friend of mine was there with his company and everything, and they're celebrating 50 years of hip hop, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you think about hip hop, when it first came out, it was not the darling child that it is right now, right? And now there's probably not one major company or organization that does not have a hip hop commercial music bound in the country, and I dare say in the world, right? So here's something that was developed in the Bronx, right? Looked upon as less than desirable, but the energy behind that, as you were saying, Reverend Cynthia, the energy behind this ability to serve, it was serving a group of people who did not have outlets to real instruments, if you will, or expensive music lessons. And so they were able to create something and energize a cold world from that presence, that authenticness. And so, as I hear you saying now, as we begin to maybe use that as an example of what's possible when we have an intentionality, when we have a viewpoint of what we're doing, and we're doing it in service, it will grow, it will take root, and it will manifest fruit that you can hardly imagine at the moment that you plant that seed.
Well, yeah. And here's the thing too about hip hop. They were speaking things that people were afraid to say.
Yes.
They were speaking about the experience of life on a lot of different levels. To me, that's what we're supposed to be doing. Let's talk about what people don't want to talk about.
Yes, yes. Yeah, which brings up that whole thing of social justice now in New Thought, particularly in religious organizations generally, is how do we begin to look at the situations and challenges that are facing us, and how do we infuse that with the spiritual idea or spiritual understanding? No matter how bad it looks, we know that it is possible to move beyond and to be better, but we have to come together.
Yeah, but you got to be able to tell the truth.
Oh, no doubt.
And I think that that's part of the where it gets rubbed up against. It's like, I just want to talk about the spiritual reality. I just want to talk about the principles. Meanwhile, people are getting killed in the streets. There's all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I feel like our job is to be a container where we can bring in that truth, like the hip hop people did. And at the same time, trust that the principles that we're teaching show people how they intertwine.
Yeah. I do want to say I'm really grateful that we didn't go down an East Coast, West Coast debate there. Because that could have derailed the whole conversation. But I think you're absolutely right, Cynthia. We have to be willing to have those tougher conversations that say, if we really are building a world that works for all life, this doesn't work for life. Right. It may appear to work for the politicians, it may appear to work for the corporations, it may appear to work for churches, but it doesn't work in promoting life and being that conduit of bringing the good, of living the message, and how does this promote life? Key question, I think.
Yeah. And that's for me, that's always the key. Life is prime. Everything else is secondary. And so whatever is being done in the secondary realms of life is compromising life itself. It needs to be put in check. However that needs to be articulated.
Yes. And there's another joke I'm not going to make about the offensive line there, but it's Colorado. You can't say prime and secondary in the same sentence and not expect somebody to push back somewhere.
I know.
Sorry.
I know.
It's got to happen.
Football. That's a good game to look at in terms of playing the game of life. You got to have a good offensive line and a good defensive line.
And you got to have a lot of good people behind you, folks. And that's what we're going to do, is get ourselves out of this conversation by saying thank you to some of the good people that make this all happen. We're going to take a quick break, but we've got a lot more coming with Reverend Cynthia James here on New Thought Today. Please stay tuned, stay with us, give a like, share, subscribe, hit the button, let your friends and family know. We'll be back in just a minute with more of New Thought Today. Stay tuned. And we're back with more of New Thought today and our special guest, Reverend Cynthia James. And I know it goes by quickly, Cynthia, but you might have seen your picture there in that commercial for New Thought Radio, because we do have your music on there, and it's part of a number of different playlists. And I got to say, from listening to you live, especially at Mile High for a number of years, there's so many songs, there's so much of your music that is just part of the soundtrack of my life, of my education and my ministry, that every time you pop up on the radio there, it's like, oh, okay, I got to slow down and take a moment and pay attention here. And so share with us a little bit what the journey of the music and the songwriting process and all that, because I've never found a Cynthia James song that I thought was just written for the radio, or just written for the charts, or just written to get noticed. Everything I've ever heard you write moves people. I think it's part of that underlying call to freedom, and I'd love to hear a little bit more of your journey in the music world.
Well, thank you so much. For a number of years when I was an actress, I was also an opening act, for Jay Leno and Rich Little and Harris and stuff like that. And everything all of a sudden started to close down. I know now it was because Spirit needed me to move in another direction. But at the time I was like, oh no, what's happening here? Right. And so I started getting calls to come to spiritual centers to sing. But of course I didn't have any spiritual music. So I would take Broadway songs and make them spiritual or whatever. And I started getting these downloads. So I have written over 50 songs, but I don't read music. I download. I mean, it's as surprising to me as it is to other people, because it just comes in, music and lyrics, or if somebody's playing a music lyrics. I mean, it's striking to me. So what I started noticing is I was asking questions of God. Music was coming through to answer the questions. Mm-hmm. And then I found extraordinary musicians who understood what was happening with me and started to work with me. My last album, called Chosen, that came out last August, I hadn't done an album in like 7 years. And I wasn't thinking about doing an album. I was writing a book. And a woman friend of mine called up and said, are you going to do another album? And I'm like, oh, no. And she goes, well, you should meet these two people. And I'm like, I'm not doing an album. And she's like, yeah, I know. But as she's telling me that, she's typing and introducing me to these two people. So I'm like, oh gosh. So I'm like, oh, nice to meet you guys, but I'm not ready to do an album at this moment. And so they said, well, we'd still like to meet you. And I said, okay. And so I get on the phone they're called the Brothers Corin. And I get on the phone and they say, we don't work with composers and singers in the normal way. We don't want you to sit at a piano. We don't want you to have a pencil. We want you to download the music. And I went, really?
Okay.
So we went through this incredible 9-month process of, at the time, I didn't realize what was being written was actually paralleling the book. But that's exactly what it was. It was like, as I was finding my voice in the book, I was finding my voice in the music. So for me, I'm so grateful and honored that you said what you said, Robert, because I just feel like my intention, just like in my coaching and counseling work, is to help people tap into their hearts. I think music is a heart opener. It's another way of praying. So I really love that my music touches people.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we've heard it 1,000 times. Music is the way to the heart, or the way to the soul. And now if we look back at ancient society, we'll see how music was used in a lot of different ways. And now scientifically, if we start looking at sound theory, we understand that certain sounds activate certain places in our body, chakras, brain cells, a whole lot of things. And when you say that download piece, you know, it just kicked off the idea that once we're in line, once the alignment is in place, everything downloads, right? And so it is about, how do I put myself in right relationship to the thing that I seek, whether it's God, whether it's a career, whether it's music, whatever it is. And when I put myself in right relationship to it, it happens. It's kind of like, I think of it as driving a stick shift. When you push the gear and the clutch and you move it in the right moment and it gets in alignment, the car just increases in speed. If you don't get it in the right alignment, it just starts jerking. And then you sitting there trying to figure out, what I did exactly what I was supposed to do, didn't I? Oh, maybe I didn't. And then when you get in right alignment, it takes off. And so that's what we have to do with life. You know, take these simple metaphors of life and begin to activate them in our lives, so that we begin to say, oh, it's just that simple. Okay, well, maybe I need to practice, or maybe I need to get a better teacher, or maybe I need to get a better car. But whatever it is, we begin to learn that this is how we obtain that freedom, is by being actively involved in life itself.
Yeah, and that alignment taps you into your center, your inner guidance, your whatever you choose to call it, your intuition. And then the more you begin to trust it, the more you begin to listen, the more obedient you become to trusting that it's guiding you moment by moment.
Mm-hmm.
I just love how the one mind works, because I found out late last night that I'm traveling home for the weekend to New England, and we're borrowing a car for part of our trip, and I just found out that it's a stick shift. And my wife even asked me, "You remember how to drive a stick?" I'm like, "Yeah, I remember how to drive a stick. Anybody that's ever driven a stick, you never forget that."
No.
But it's in the one mind. So thanks for reminding me. I gotta be in alignment with, careful if you get stuck on a hill. So, the one mind working in many, many crazy ways. So, Rev Cynthia, we love to spend time in these programs as well, looking at, well, what's the vision? And I know you as a visionary. You taught me a lot about the visioning process when I first came to Mile High. You were there in the room with Dr. Michael when it all got kicked off and was starting to roll. And so I know there's something in you. I know there is that vision within you that you see that perhaps you're already moving towards, and we'd love to hear a little more of that. What's the vision you hold that you see for the future of New Thought, for where New Thought as a philosophy, as a movement is heading? What's that growing edge that's out there for us?
Well, I heard so many times when I was coming up as practitioner studies ministerial that Ernest Holmes said, "Be open at the top." And I think that's really the vision. To get out of any dogmatic thinking, any old ways of being, any old structures that no longer work, and open to possibilities. The world is changing. The world has changed. And so for me, New Thought, we have to open our consciousness and our awareness to bring in young people, to teach them how to use these principles of manifestation. But we cannot do it doing it the way we've always done it, because that's why you see so many of our communities aging out, because we haven't learned how to open that space.
Right. So the stick shift analogy is definitely not going to work, see?
Yeah. Well,
we're going to have to come up with something new.
Yeah, no. What you have to do, you come up with an electric car where the gears shift automatically. So it's that insight that's needed, right? Because when we look at ancient communities, what they did was they went into meditation, and meditation wasn't just sitting down. Meditating might have been in the middle of a flood trying to clean up, right? But they looked at a situation from an insightful and introspective way and say, how do I prevent this? How do I make it better? How do I utilize this situation that does not quite seem right to make it flourish? And you know, we were talking about Egypt. That's exactly what happened in the Nile Valley. When they begin to learn the cycles of the flood and how to captivate that flood and turn a barren land into an oasis.
Right.
And that's what we have to do right now, is begin to have a vision of an oasis, right?
Yes.
And as we begin to vision that oasis, the necessary people, places, and things that need to be in place or in alignment to make that happen will show.
Yeah. And here's the thing, you know, so many of the people that are in our communities today, you know, come from walking away from traditional religious backgrounds that didn't serve them.
Right.
And yet there was still an attachment to some of the rituals and some of the ways of being. And so I think what we're watching in this moment is those people not wanting to give up some of that because it's their comfort place, and other people saying, but we need to change. And so I'm like, what's the middle way? Well, how do we support the people and understanding that where they came from is perfect, that the things that are important to them are perfect, but open the space for people who want to do it differently, who want to explore, who want to create.
Yeah. You know, that's interesting. You know, I love analogy. My father was a master, you know, and I think about the art of stretching, right? When you look at a ballerina and the stretching that they do, and you look at a yoga master and the stretching that they do, if you were to see them side by side, you would say, well, that's not anything like anything. I mean, there's no relationship to any of that, right? But at the essence, at the core, it is the same thing, the same muscle group, the same tendons, the same joints are being exercised and strengthened. And what made me think about that, when we think about our old traditions, there's some things that I need to do in terms of stretching that a ballerina may give me better support than I may get from a yoga instructor. I don't give up my yoga because the ballerina does something different or vice versa. It's how do I take that in, as you said so eloquently, how do I remain open at the top and allow that to make my ballet better or my yoga better? We see now in professional sports, especially in football, where the impetus is to build up, make strong, make tight. They're all beginning to take yoga, and they're seeing a big difference.
100%. But here's the thing too. It's like to invite people into the, you know, I love what you said, like the people were meditating even though there's flooding, right? To invite people into conscious practice that says, what if there was nothing to fix, but there was something to create?
I like that.
How could we take from where we've been to where we want to go and open it up and trust that what wants to come through is perfect?
Yeah. Wow. I love that.
And you strike me in that, and is that the crux of perhaps why the younger crowd and younger generations aren't as interested in organized religion, organized Sunday practice? Because as I think about it, a lot of communities across the country and across this planet are still in that place of, we have the tools that will allow you to fix yourself. Right. Even if we don't say it that way, that's what's coming across. And the kids today are like, but I ain't broken.
Right.
And want to get to a more, I'm going to say, active experience of their spiritual life.
Yeah. And so many of them believe that religion is about control, and they don't want to be controlled.
Right.
They want to express. So the thing is it's like, I can't remember these two young women. They were from New York, and they had these things where early in the morning, they'd open up a warehouse and they put on all this music, right? And all these people would come in, and it was this incredible connect, like ecstatic thing, but it was about spirituality, because then they'd meditate and have coffee, right? But the kids loved it because there were no constrictions. They weren't told where to sit, how to be, where to go. It was like, just come in, connect, let the music feed your soul, and then let's all go in together. And I think that there's something to that, that the old way of doing church or whatever, for them is like, I don't want to just sit here. I want to do something else.
Yeah. There's one book that I read, probably one of the first spiritual books I read, one of the first couple anyway, the Celestine Prophecy. Mm-hmm. And there's this spiritual point in the Celestine's Prophecy that speaks to the setting. Is the group of people are sitting down in a circle and they're talking. And the point is that when we get so authentic, when we get so connected and in a line, one person will be speaking and no one will interrupt, and they will get to the exhaustion of what they're doing. And the next person will pick up instinctively at the right place at the right time to continue the conversation and take it to another point or to another level. And that is what we need to begin to strive for now. I mean, the point that, the moment you make eye contact with someone is the indication that there's some energy exchange that needs to take place or should take place, because these are not casual things. And as we begin to work from that kind of a principle of this universal oneness, this connection, this energy that has a mind, if you will, of its own, and it is always intentional, and it is always clear and always free. We have to become, again, I love it, open at the top to allow it to flow through us and not be fearful, to trust it, and to allow ourselves to figure out what's next to be created. I love that. I got to remember that one, the creation point.
Yeah, when I take people on pilgrimages, part of the intention is to create community. So we're not just going to these sacred sites and having rituals and practices. Then it's like we get to come together and talk about what did we just experience. Mm-hmm. So it takes on a life of its own. And for me, that's soul feeding.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. I'm so getting those tingles, those buzzes, because and I want the folks at home to recognize this is happening in all of our lives all of the time, if we're willing to listen to it. Recently, LZ and I were in a workshop with Sharif Abdullah, and in that experience, a woman who is not New Thought, not active in any of the circles that we travel in or that we're communicating in, but she said something that sparked in me. And I sent her a quick little message and said, hey, I'd love to explore that with you more at some time. Here's my link. If you're interested in a coffee conversation over Zoom, please connect with me. And she did. And the first time around, she had to push the appointment. And the second time around, I had to push the appointment. And the appointment kept getting pushed. And that's the point where it can be really, really easy to let things go. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well, whatever, and not follow up, or be like, or blame it on a mistake. Oh, it wasn't meant to be, that just wasn't supposed to happen. It's like, no, we made eye contact across the airwaves, across the country. There was something that said, don't let that conversation end. And we had that phone call was it yesterday or was it last week? It was recent. We finally had that chance to sit down and have that conversation, and the connections that were built of, oh, wow, we do know some of the same people, and oh, maybe we do travel in some similar circles. And I'm coming back to something you've been saying all day, Cynthia. It's about getting into that piece of the creation. Mm-hmm. What is it we're going to create? And That's the question I think everybody wants to be asking themselves. What are we going to create in service to our interpretation of the vision, our perspective of the vision? What are we going to create that supports creating a world that works for all? What are we just going to create because we feel like being creative this week? And when we can get into that place, well, that's where miracles happen.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. And Cynthia, as we start moving towards time, I'm curious as to what, and this hard question in the sense I'm going to ask you to just name one. You don't have to name one. In terms of a tool or an approach or a concept or an idea, I'll make it kind of broad, that keeps you plugged in and motivated to do the work that you do.
I have a non-negotiable in my life, and it's called spiritual practice. It is a minimum of 45 minutes every morning. So whatever I've got to do, if I have to get up earlier, that happens. It includes meditation. It includes reading. It includes writing and journaling. And it includes asking questions of the universe. What does my future self want me to know? What is the highest vision for my life in this moment? How can grace show up in my life in abundant ways? I mean, I ask questions all the time because I feel like the universe will answer the questions, and I don't want to be answering from how do I fix? I want to be answering for how do I create? How do I open? How do I expand?
Yeah. Wonderful. The proverbial ask and it is given.
Well, that sounds like a whole nother episode, folks. So we'll get right to the point. Reverend Cynthia, will you come back again sometime?
Of course.
Well, we'd love to have you. Folks, we always love to finish up here with our final thoughts of the day. However, we do need to say thank you one more time to some people. So give us one more minute. We're going to do that, and then we're going to come back with our final thoughts with Reverend Cynthia James here on New Thought Today. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hepperlin Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Spiritual Center, Kitchener, Om Center for Spiritual Living, La Mesa, Satya Center, Center for Spiritual Living, North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and Center for Spiritual Living, Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for making New Thought Media Network a place to be. Please come be you. And remember, like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Yes. Thank you to everyone that makes this network possible on that financial world. We so appreciate and love you. If you'd like to become a member of what we're doing here on New Thought Media Network, head on over to the website, ntmedia.org. Click on the donate button. Making a monthly donation will get your name included in the next version of our thank you video. All right, we are almost running out of time here today, and as we always do, we finish with final thoughts, and we're going to kick Z over into the spotlight and let him get us started.
Wow, this has been such a rich conversation, and thought provoking, and I think that the utmost thought for the day is alignment. Find your alignment, whatever that is, however you need to do it, because when you do that, you can stand in who you are and not be fazed by anything that's going on around you. So find your alignment.
Beautiful. Thank you. Reverend Cynthia.
What I want everyone to know is you are a co-creator with the divine. You are here to create something that no one else can do the way you came here to do it. So you never have to be afraid. You never have to pull back your energy. You never have to hide. Step out and step up and bring your light because it's necessary and important. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here.
I knew I shouldn't have gone last. For me, it's about that creation. It's about being the creator, about saying yes to what's inside, saying yes to the greatness that's within us. And I think the theme I heard throughout the day today was be creative, get out there and create. So, folks, if you want to stay in touch with Reverend Cynthia, there's plenty of ways to do that. Her website is going across the screen right now, cynthiajames.net. She's taking a group of people to France next year in September, I believe that is. She's leading people to freedom, and there's the book and the accompanying CD. You can get all of this and more on her website, and feel free to hit the contact button over there as well. You know, Cynthia, we have just another minute or two available, so tell us a little bit about the France trip. This sounds really enticing.
Oh, I'm so excited about it. It's like we start in the south of France. We kind of follow a Mary Magdalene path, and also we learn about the Cathars and what they did in that area and the spirituality that was brought there. And we go to all these spiritual places. We go to St. Baume, where Mary Magdalene was. We have in a grotto where there's a music immersive with cameras and lights and all happening. We do that all the way through the south, and then we go to Chartres, and we hook up with Lauren Artress, who is the most world-renowned expert on labyrinths, and we activate imagination and manifestation, and then we walk that manifestation in a private walk on the labyrinth with Renaissance music to bring it to life.
Okay, just the labyrinth walks got me. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I could just drop in for that and be content, but the whole trip sounds amazing. So folks, check that out again over at cynthiajames.net and you will get more. All right, you've already said you'll come back again, which is great. Thank you for that. We'll get somebody in touch with you to schedule that. But again, we want to say, Reverend Cynthia, thank you so much for taking time for being with us today. I know on behalf of myself and Rev Z, we both look at you as a leading voice, helping to keep New Thought on track and moving forward. So we look forward to sharing with you again and again. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you. Honored.
Everyone else, plan to join us again next week when our guest will be Reverend Chris Plim, and we'll talk more about global heart and the global peace at that time. Until then, we want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.